come here for a second, you charming error in a world that runs on lies. Yeah, you. Don't flinch. Sit down. Let's talk like adults who've seen enough betrayal to laugh instead of bleed. Tell me something. Have you ever noticed how silence hurts certain people more than screaming ever could? That's where this story begins. They'll never say it out loud. They'll smile, post, date, distract themselves. But every person they meet now gets measured against you. Every conversation, every laugh, every moment of connection runs through a quiet comparison they can't shut off. And every single time, reality disappoints them. Because here's the uncomfortable truth they're choking on now. You were irreplaceable. Not dramatic, not poetic, just factual. They didn't see it when you were right there, loving them without performance, choosing them without manipulation, standing steady without asking for applause. They mistook your kindness for something common, like it was unlimited, like people with depth, patience, loyalty, and emotional intelligence just show up everywhere. Let me ask you something. Have you ever watched someone treat gold like it's sand just because they've never owned anything valuable before? That was them. They thought they could do better. They thought they could upgrade. They thought you were just one option, not the alignment. And now life is teaching them the cruelest lesson it offers. Quality doesn't repeat. They didn't realize your presence was rare. Not loud, not flashy, rare. The kind of rare you only recognize once it's gone. Your empathy, your patience, your loyalty. Those don't come bundled with every new face they chase now. So what happens? Every time they try to connect with someone else, something feels off, hollow, shallow, like eating junk food when your body remembers real nourishment. The emptiness reminds them, quietly, consistently, of what they threw away. That's not karma, that's consequence. They wander from person to person, hoping for familiarity, comfort, depth, power. But it never arrives, because what they felt with you wasn't just chemistry, it was alignment, timing, something spiritual they didn't have the maturity to protect. They thought moving on would be easy. They thought replacing you would be fast. Now they're drowning in a realization they can't mute. What you offered comes once in a lifetime. And the people they chase now? They can't even match your shadow. Your silence haunts them, not because you're loud, but because absence exposes everything cheap they're settling for now. They can't find your depth in shallow waters. They can't find your strength in fragile hearts. They can't find your authenticity in people who only perform connection. Let me pause you here. If they had really valued you, would you be gone? Exactly. They scroll through contacts, messages, old photos, old jokes, hoping something numbs the ache. Nothing does. Because the standard you set wasn't emotional, it was spiritual. You touched places in them they didn't even know existed. And now they'll spend years trying to fill those empty rooms with noise. Every new conversation reminds them of your wit. Every argument reminds them of your honesty. Every silence reminds them of your peace. They try to replicate the bond, but all they're doing is chasing ghosts, and you are the biggest one. They didn't appreciate how you understood them without explanation. They didn't appreciate how you forgave them before they even apologized. They didn't appreciate how you knew their flaws and still chose them. Now they're meeting people who won't tolerate even a fraction of what you accepted, and reality hits hard. You weren't demanding, you were balanced. You weren't clingy, you were loyal. You weren't soft, you were golden. And they treated gold like dust. Now they're left with hands full of sand. They can't replicate the comfort you brought. They can't recreate the peace you carried. They can't revive the magic you radiated without effort. And every disappointment feels like punishment for taking you for granted. Their ego shrinks a little every time someone new doesn't stay, doesn't invest, doesn't care the way you did. Because what you brought to the table wasn't normal, it was exceptional. They thought they were the prize, the catch, the rare one. Losing you corrected that illusion. You were the blessing. You were the shift. You were the upgrade. And now they live with the knowledge that they fumbled something extraordinary. They remember the softness of your voice, the way you listened without judgment, the way you made them feel safe without chains. And deep down they know they'll never experience that exact combination again. That realization eats slowly, quietly, daily. They replay your laughter, realizing how real it was. They replay your words, realizing how wise they were. They replay your loyalty, realizing how rare it was. And all they can do is wish they'd treated you better when they had access. You set a bar they can't reach anymore. Not because others aren't good enough, but because the version of them who had access to you no longer exists. They burned that version trying to impress the wrong crowds. So, let me ask you, do you see how losing you didn't just change them? It froze their story. Every time they look into someone else's eyes, they search for your fire. Every touch gets compared to your warmth. Every lonely night reminds them of your presence. But replacements don't heal regret. They're finally learning that strong souls don't beg, they move on. And once they move on, no force on earth brings them back. They didn't just lose a person, they lost a future. Every road they walk now is haunted by what could have been if they had simply matured, cared, and chosen correctly. You were the one thing in their life that wasn't temporary, the one they could have built an entire world with. But they chose chaos, ego, pride. Now all that's left is the ache of realizing you were the safest place they ever had. Time will pass, faces will blur, names will fade. But you stay carved into the back of their mind like a scar they gave themselves. Because you weren't just someone they loved, you were the standard, the blueprint, the bar no one else can reach. And that's the punishment life gives to people who mishandle rare souls. They'll search for you in every one and never find you again. Not because others aren't good enough, but because what you brought can't be copied, mimicked, or manufactured. It was born from who you are. And the funniest part, while they were searching for someone easier, bendable, predictable, you became stronger, colder, wiser. You became the version they always hoped you wouldn't become, the one they don't need them at all. Their mistake wasn't treating you badly. Their mistake was doing it while assuming you'd never change. They thought your kindness was weakness, your patience was weakness, your effort meant lack of options. Now they're learning the most painful truth of all. You never needed them, they needed you. So, if you're listening right now, don't shrink, don't explain, don't go backwards. You weren't too much, they were too unprepared. And once someone loses a standard, everything else feels like a downgrade. Smile, adjust your collar, walk away calm. Let them live with it.